So we've talked about finding your people and asking people for support. We've talked about finding and clarifying your capacities and interests and assets and the questions that you want to live into in your life. We just finished talking about vision, listening for vision, finding vision, strengthening your vision, finding support when it gets knocked down, when it goes dark, reigniting that light, but realizing that if we don't have a vision, right, without a vision, the people perish. Without a vision, we do lose a sense of possibility. Mm-hmm. So the next piece of a person-centered journey, and I find this is essential in almost every conversation about vision, that we have to crystallize some action, right? We have to make an intention to act, to do something different, to strengthen the sense of what's possible. And so there are 3 pieces to clarifying action steps, or seeds as another way to think about it, because it's not like we're always in charge of these steps. But if we can at least say, this is something that I'm going to do, that is critical. And I see an awful lot of person-centered visioning that is beautiful, but it doesn't actually get into action. People don't get into crystallizing, taking the next step.
Yeah.
And so there are 3 pieces to this that I want to emphasize, and then I want to hear you comment on these 3 elements. In the person-centered planning that I practice, I try to finish every conversation about what more is possible with only 3 to 5 action steps, right? We don't try to make it too complicated. I'm all for, like, let's keep it limited to 1 hand so I can remember what they are. Right?
Yeah.
So 5 things. 3 is okay, 3 to 5 action steps. But it's important that 1 be about now. Like you just gave a great example. If the now for you is designing the sandwich that you want instead of the one that you feel like you're stuck with every day, design that sandwich.
Yep.
Right? Now, the problem with a lot of person-centered work, in my opinion, is it often stops there. It stops at the small things that people can do wherever they are. And people can feel kind of good about it, but they're still not really taking on the bigger issues.
Yeah.
So the second action step that is essential to identify is what is a step that's going to be taken to strengthen the longer arc of justice, the bigger thing that needs to happen here, right? So it's probably the thing that's not going to happen right away.
Yep.
And it's probably the thing that's going to require systems and organizations to change, right?
Yep.
So this is where we come back to power concedes nothing without a demand. And so you want to have it be safe enough, that's not always easy, to say, this is what I really truly want. And I know the system doesn't do this. I know the organization doesn't support this, but I'm not going to stop asking for that bigger thing, right? So at least 1 or 2 action steps that activate the bigger picture, okay? And then the third thing that is essential is that everybody in your group is in. And what I mean by that, there's a tendency in this part of a conversation for all the weight to fall on just 1 person. Sometimes it's the person with a disability, it all falls on you. Sometimes it's the parent. It's often the mother, to be honest with you. I've seen that happen in my own family life with my own mother. People would have these great ideas and then all the work lands in my mother's lap. So it's very important in this phase of a journey that everybody in your circle including the people that you've brought together along the way, keep making at least one or a couple of commitments to your bigger view.
Yep. Yep.
Right? Okay, so help us understand what this is like in your life. So give us a sense of what is something that you're working on now that you know is, it could be something really simple, just getting through the day kind of thing. Although you kind of tend not to work on really simple things, right? Like
No.
you decide that the whole transportation system isn't working for you, so you get your entire office moved to a different location.
Yep. Yep.
Let's see if you can help us with a small thing that you know people can identify with.
Well, it's simple. And for me now, I realize I have to build that network of allies, that network of supports, so I don't have to do it all myself.
Yes.
That's the simple thing. Just knowing who your supports are and saying, I need the help with this.
So I love that. So even though you've got that Superman cape behind your shoulder, you're really clear at this part in your journey that it's not about being Superman alone, that
No.
your capacity to be strong is directly related to how many different ways you build your allies,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Phone calls, emails, conversations,
Yep.
you name it.
Absolutely.
Okay, give us an example of a longer view that you see. Maybe speak for not only yourself, but also other people, self-advocates that you're in touch with, especially right now. What are some things that you know people really want to see different? And now is a good time because in this moment of disruption, even though it's been, it's felt like a setback for a lot of people, it creates an opportunity for lots of people to think differently about support.
Okay, even though you get told a no, you might get told a no, but just to have the validation that I or somebody I support was heard is the start of realizing the person's value. Because everybody has value, even though it might be about that sandwich, that's your value, and that's the start of the speaking up for yourself.
Absolutely. And what's another thing that you know people long for? Oftentimes the vision is a longing. It's not even clear yet what it is. Something that people long for that's been hard for people, let's just say hard for people around Buffalo to actually, you know, have it happen, come together for them.
To be included and to be accepted for who you are. We all have differences, but to be accepted for who you are and the value that you have. For me, it keeps coming back to the value that you have, because everybody has that value, and I don't want anybody to lose sight of that.
Amen. All right. So interestingly enough, even though we didn't plan this at all, you've really come back to, and the last element of this, we won't get into too much right now. We'll do this at another time. But if we're staying true to the journey, we keep taking action steps, and that leads us to bigger things, right? And so we don't settle for even creating new opportunities just for ourselves. We keep at it so that it expands to more people, right? So here's an example. Here's an example from Buffalo that's very compelling, I think, is that in the early years of self-determination, meaning people having self-directed budgets, Buffalo was ahead of the rest of the state in terms of helping people get a hold of their own budgets and be self-directing. And to my knowledge, at this point, more people in the Buffalo area per capita especially have access to self-determination to their own budgets as anywhere else in New York State.
That is very true. That is very true.
And you've had a lot to do with that.
I hope so.
Yeah. And so have a lot of other people, right? So
Yes.
It's important to be reminded, especially in a place like Buffalo, that when there's collective will around these ideals that you just emphasized again, that you want people to not lose sight of, that everybody belongs, that everyone, we want to support people's lives so that they unfold in a way that everyone experiences dignity, right? And a sense
Yep.
of purpose as a human on the planet.
Yep.
That there is increasingly economic justice, that people have access to resources, to funding, through jobs and through other kinds of self-determination and self-directed packages of support, and that people are growing in their sense of power, that you are the agents for change, that if enough self-advocates especially can stick together, unify their voice, and bring allies together on this journey, that you really can move that mountain, right? You really
Yep.
can shift the pattern.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's a really powerful aspect of what you're doing. So thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show.
Thank you. And I look forward to delving into this more and drilling down on how we're going to change the system together.
Amen.